two things now, all I care about. Well, three. One is passion and purpose. There's no passion and no purpose, I don't touch it. I can't be around it. From now on, I'm living for my legacy and not my resume. I don't care what comes after my name anymore. I could care less. There's so many hurt people, hungry children, abandoned children, people struggling with mental illness, addiction, whatever the case may be. They need a voice. So I had to accept that responsibility.
Was it literally a moment where you felt you were going to kill yourself, that your light bulb went off and you said, this is it, I'm now on, and I'm off one track, I'm off track and field, I'm on a new track to make, essentially it's saving the world, making the world a better place.
Yeah, it's so I got up and I was going for a run, and again, just super down on myself, and I'm running and I go out to the street and I see this truck barreling down, and I was like, and here's the thing that shakes me, and even now I got goosebumps talking about it, is at that moment I was okay with dying. And that's it breaks my heart, because so many people get there and actually go through with it. And I had people, anyone that knows me knows Tyrone is this big, strong, athletic guy and super mentally and strong-willed and come from nothing. But in that moment, I felt completely helpless. And I was like, I'm done. I'm okay with dying. And this truck is coming, and it was a higher power that stopped me from throwing myself in front of that truck. And it wasn't, and I cried, went by, and it kind of shook me out of it. And I cried. Oh my God, I've never cried like that before in my life. I cried. And it all just started to come out. And this has been a process. So we're talking 7 years later now, and it's still a process of healing. But there was a point where I had to say, metaphorically, that part of me died. Now a new life has come in, and now all of that hard work and determination that I put into trying to be what I thought I should be, now I'm gonna be what I'm put here to be, which I know it now. I know I was put here to save lives. I was put here to impact people. I was put here to connect people that are gonna change the world and get people to care about the poor, the downtrodden, the impoverished, the hungry, the tired, the weak. That's my responsibility now. So it's been a long process, and I would be lying to you if I said it hasn't taken every day of the last 7 years to become a reality. But when you accept that calling, and the day it switches and you're like, this is what I'm here for.
Is giving in itself a superpower? I mean,
yes.
Yes,
100% it is. It is the ultimate superpower, because the power of giving cannot be calculated. It is exponential. It is extremely powerful, because if I was to sit and tell you, I could sit here on the phone for the next 5 hours and tell you the stories of the people of giving that have told me something that they've listened to or that they've experienced because of me, and the reverberations of how that's grown and the impact that it's had on their children and their lives and other people. So giving is a superpower, and the issue is we're not taught how to give. This world is about being a taker, right? Let me take. What can I take? What can I get? Right? What can I get if I get good grades? What do I get if I get a good job? What do I get if I live in this house? What do I get if I get this car? What do you get if you give and you give and you give? So being a thoughtful giver and an intentional giver is a superpower, because what you'll start to realize is the abundance comes so fast and furious that you can't hold it all anyway. You got to give it away.
I know you from the financial services industry, where investment news, 40 under 40 and wealth management, and I'm reading this now, called you out as a top 10 advisor set to change the industry. Financialplanning.com named you as one of 20 people who will change wealth management in 2020. I mean, I see you in the financial service industry, but it's much bigger than, financial advice, financial services. It is, change the world. So, is it voice of the voices? Is that it in a nutshell? And are there other things you're doing? And can you tell us about them?
Sure. Yeah. It is to be the voice for the voiceless. It is financial literacy for all, right? Everyone deserves financial education, quality financial education, regardless of your zip code, regardless of how you grew up, regardless of your color. Everyone deserves quality financial information and to be taken care of. Access for all. And yes, there's a point in there where there's poor people, there's working poor people, just the middle class, those that are forgotten. So yes, absolutely. With a platform that I have now, I have a responsibility to screen for those people. So that's one part of it. The other part of it, of all the things that I do now, right? Passion and purpose, it has to meet those two. I'm very big in cryptocurrency, again, from my shirt, because I feel like, as you can see, I feel like cryptocurrency is going to change the world, because it's going to allow the billions of people that are unbanked in the country to become banked, to be able to have power over themselves and self-sovereignty and control their money, and cut out the middlemen. So that's another piece. The other thing is with the podcast, right, is getting people to tell their stories. Getting people to tell their stories. And everyone's, well, my story isn't like yours. It's yours. And there are millions of people, there's billions of people on Earth, 7 billion, 7.5, like someone else needs to hear your story. They need to hear exactly what you're going through. They will relate. So what I want to do through telling my stories, encouraging people to tell their story, because storytelling is also a superpower. I have a responsibility as well to young Black men and young Black boys all across the world, but especially in America here, to let them know what is possible. And that's just,
You know what? That Ahmad's murder was going to come up at some point on this call. I'm glad you brought it up. I live in a small city in the north of Spain. I've lived in the States. I've lived in Eastern Europe. I've lived in South America, and I just can't. I mean, I know there's hate in the world. I know there's racism in the world. I just don't understand. I went out for a walk at the weekend, and my son was out for a run. He didn't see me. He was just out for a run. He's CrossFit fanatic. He's been in lockdown. He actually had an injury where he had to get stitches during the lockdown. He was out for a run. I hadn't seen him run in ages. He couldn't see me. We didn't connect. He was just running. I was so happy. I was so happy to see my son running. Just happy. You can't believe how proud and happy I was. I came home and I sat down, and the video of Ahmad's hunting and murder just came up on the newspaper I was reading. I don't want to watch that. I forced myself to watch it, and I thought, Jesus, this just could be my son. Could be my son. And I don't know. I don't understand how hate like that can exist. Mm-hmm. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, do you?
You know what? I'll be completely honest, and it hurts to say it. I wasn't shocked by it. And if you are in this country and you are around it enough, then you realize that there is that severe hatred in the world. And it's, again, that part of it wasn't shocking to me. I think what was shocking is that there's still, in this country, in the South especially, these antiquated laws, and that would allow that to happen for 2 months and to stay quiet. And the vitriol and the amount of hatred is probably a little shocking. But if you are a Black American in this country, especially a Black male, it's not shocking. Some of the things that I've experienced personally with police officers. So that part of it, no, but it's just what is just being able to kill somebody, anybody, in broad daylight and leave them in the street is unfathomable for any reason. It is unbelievable. But I do believe that, love conquers all, and it is the most powerful force in the world. But there is hatred. The amount, right, and the deepness of the hatred is probably what sets you back. But I still feel like we have a long way to go in this country and in the world.
There's one thing that stuck on my mind, sort of following this, and that was his mother's calm and dignity. I mean, his mother's calm and dignity is just an example an example. I'm glad you mentioned, love and kindness, and you yourself represent love and kindness. I mean, it's. I don't want to be flippant and change the topic, but normally when I see you, you're wearing a "Be Kind" T-shirt, or you're wearing a "Be a Good Person" T-shirt. Mm-hmm. Today is your what is it? It's like believer. The Bitcoin believer. Yeah. I mean, I know you studied communications, and that's important to you. I mean, it's bloody simple. It's a simple thing to do, just to put that message up there on your heart, on your chest, wherever. Mm-hmm. And it's effective. I mean, tell us a little bit about that, because we need more. We need more people out there with those messages.
I believe in the power of imagery, and I believe in the again, right, the power of conditioning people when they're looking at something, or they're looking at you, and then they're hearing you talk, but they see be kind, be kind, be kind, be a good person, right? Even some of the pictures that you shared with me, right, where I'm talking and my shirt is open and you can see that's a powerful image that goes a long way. And that's actually my Twitter Avi, that picture. So thank you. It's up on my Twitter. And even with the podcast, I have all types of shirts that I wear, but I'm cognizant that if you turn on that podcast and you're watching that for 50 minutes, you're getting that positive messaging for 50 minutes, whether you want it or not. And you're hearing uplifting, positive conversation, and you're hearing it from a Black male, and you're seeing it from, someone with, from, did I lose you?
You did not lose me.
There it is. Oh, okay.
Just so as people can see who you are, because this is absolutely the man that I saw.
So I just believe that it's something to do my part. Again, a little small piece to get people to understand the power of goodness, the power of again, we always talk about brainwashing people in a bad way, but we could do that in a good way as well. So when people leave a talk or whatever, they walk out of the room, they go, man, that felt really good. He made me feel really good. And it could have been nothing. Maybe it was what I said, but it was reinforced by what was on my chest. So, and I make sure that I travel that way too. When I get on the plane and I'm walking down the aisle of the plane, and you see people like shaking your head, right? Like, I wore one shirt that said, it was a play off of Payless, the store here in America. And it said, say less, do more, right? And people were like, oh, I love your shirt, right? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. The Be Kind shirt as well. And, so many people would say things. And I just believe that we wear billboards. We're billboards for everything else, Gucci and Prada and Nike. Why not be billboards for love, billboards for kindness, billboards for goodness? And if that helps and you get that response from people, then you realize you're doing something right. So yeah, it's absolutely intentional. I love it when people recognize it, because it realizes that that little thought that I'm putting into it, it helps and it's seen. So I'm excited that people it's really catching on.
If you don't have your own clothing brand already, you may want to consider it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Before I move on from clothing, I did want to ask you about. I went on LinkedIn today, and in fact, without choosing to see you, the first thing that came up when I clicked new posts was Tyrone Ross in his Satoshi is female. So, I mean, it's kind of on the same topic, but slightly different as well, because, Satoshi is female means something. And it's kind of a segue into crypto. I didn't want the conversation to be about crypto or Bitcoin or anything like that. I'd love to. It'd be good to hear something from you. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about Satoshi is female and about the idea of inclusion and just rethinking things.
Right. So I wore that shirt 2 years ago now, right? Or 2 years ago now at a conference that's actually happening today. Consensus, which is a very big crypto conference. I'll be on live in an hour or so for people out there who would check it out. But and I knew that I was going to be center stage, New York City, prime time. I was like, I need to send a message, because at the time I just got into the crypto space. I wasn't really well known, and people knew me from Twitter. That's one of the things that I cared about: diversity and inclusion, reputation and equality. And the crypto space is kind of toxic. It's masculine. It's hard. It's if you embrace anything, you're beta and you're not alpha. And I'm like, I'm gonna show them. And I was actually at a conference before that, and a woman had started that shirt, and she started that company, started selling those shirts so she can raise money for a school in Africa. And I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And Satoshi is, right, a pseudonym. You don't know who it is. We don't know. Everyone guesses. So I just love that shirt, and I got it and I wore it on stage, and it just blew up. It was a whole thing. But I really wanted people to understand that, yeah, we need to be more inclusive. And that's not only about color, that's diversity of mindset, diversity of gender, diversity of religion, diversity of culture. And I wanted to be a part of that. And I do feel like, again, and not to get into the weeds of crypto or any particular coin or any of that, that's what I think cryptocurrency represents. That's what I think the space represents, is an opportunity for people to separate themselves from what we believe are these groups we should be in. And again, to be your own person, to be individual, to be, again, self-sovereign and control your destiny. And that's why I was drawn to it. And I just thought that shirt was a great message, the apotheosis, so to speak, of what it means to be in that space and be an individual.
So I just wanted to ask you, any tips for staying positive? You got a lot of responsibility. You're taking on crypto, you're taking on financial advice, and you're taking on changing the world. You're changing, how do you stay? That's a lot of responsibility. How do you just stay positive? How do you stay happy?
Again, I believe in the power of habit. And one of the things that I do throughout the day is I try and make sure I'm listening to things that are uplifting, whether those are sermons, whether those are old talks of Jim Rohn, and also making sure that, as you just said, right, taking a few minutes for self-love. One of the things I have been doing, encouraging people to do, is take 3 walks per day. One way is to just simply take a walk and just let out all your frustration or anger right now with things that may have been lost or that you're going to lose. Your wedding canceled, graduation, speaking engagements, whatever, your ability to have an impact. Second walk is creativity. Think about ways where you want to come out of this and explore your gifts and your talents. And the last is to literally self-love, is to love on yourself. So I realize that the more that I think of others, the more that I think about giving and making space for myself, allows me to be upbeat and positive. And it's not easy, but it is a habit where, and even when I go to bed, I make sure that I'm listening to something positive as I fall asleep. So it doesn't matter what that is, but it's something that's either going to be educational or inspirational or powerful. And I feel like that works as well. And then also the company that you keep. It's good to remove the negative Nancys from your life and add in some positive Pauls.
I'll be putting excerpts from your voice into my sleep routine. Look, do you have time for another couple of quick things?
Yeah, really quickly, sure.
Yeah, really quick. It must be difficult to do what you're doing, particularly during COVID. It's more difficult to get, to people. It's more difficult to impress yourself on people. But do you think there's a post-COVID world where, people are more considerate, more giving? You see things, and I came across this again, sort of checking around to thinking what I talk to you about today. I think I saw Daniel Hum of 11 Park Avenue.
Yes.
His restaurant closes, and it turns into being able to feed 3,000 hungry people a day. Does that continue? Does that continue after COVID, when restaurants are back open? Is there a change in mindset?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I love that. I've been to that restaurant once on my birthday a few years ago, and I was just reading about it, and I read that article with him, and at the end he says, coming out of this, we're going to continue to do this, right? My services are no longer going to be for the 1%. Restaurants have to lead combating hunger, right? And it's the same way I feel about financial services. Like, financial advisors have to lead with financial literacy and financial education. We have to go first. So I say yes for this reason. when this is all over, everybody will have been humble, right? And I feel like when there was just too much haughtiness and pride and ridiculous gaudiness going on, and I think this is going to humble a lot of people. There's still people who are going to be the same regardless, but I do think there'll be a more giving spirit. I do think we're going to, and here's the thing, what this has done is shed light on a lot of the things that people try to ignore now. You can't ignore it any longer. These are the issues in the country. These are the issues in the world. We can't ignore them. So now that everything stops for a minute, we're able to look at all of the issues that we have with income inequality and racism and in politics and all these other things. So I definitely think we'll see a wave of change when this is all done.